Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 testing. Yes indeed, we're here at the crossroads, the crucible of all Total War Warhammer 2 testing, and Total War Warhammer 1 for that matter. Definitely a great flat map here, going to be allowing for some showcasing of some specific things. Today we're taking a look at fire versus physical resistance versus magic attacks. So I had seen some questions and some confusion in the comments section of some previous videos and of my own videos and actually other people's videos as well. There seems to be some confusion that fire actually cuts through physical resistance, and that is actually not the case, and today I'm going to demonstrate that for you here. So what have we got? So we've got 4 Flagellants going to be facing up against 4 Cairn Wraiths. We've got 2 bog standard Flagellants, and 2 are going to be accompanied by this Warrior Priest. Now the Warrior Priest is not going to get involved in melee here, so he won't affect the battle in that way. Both of them have got the Flaming Banner here, the Banner of Eternal Flame, which is hitting these Flagellants, giving them flaming attacks. It does give them a slight weapon damage buff as well, 6% weapon damage. So we expect these Flagellants to do slightly better than the ones on this side because of that 6% weapon damage buff, but because of the fire damage, they shouldn't do a lot better. We should be able to see a very noticeable impact, with the fire damage. So let's go ahead and kick things into full gear, and we'll watch as these guys come together. So we'll go ahead and go for a ride along here with these great looking Flagellants. Just take a minute to appreciate their unit models, and the variations there look absolutely amazing. I love the scriptures that are pinned to their chests in particular. Not really armor per se, but whatever helps them believe, right? So going to be getting the Flagellants in across the line here. This is a kind of an ideal unit for testing, just because Flagellants are of course unbreakable, and ethereal units have very high physical resistance. So you can see on the charge they do a little bit of shock damage with the charge bonus there, but it's going to take them quite a bit of time to cut through the physical resistance of the Cairn Wraiths. You can see there's not a very noticeable difference across the line here in the amount of damage they're doing. So we've got the Warrior Priests online buffing their weapon strength slightly. So as the fight drags on, you'll be able to see this side start to take the lead ever so slightly. You can see it's taking quite a while for these Flagellants to cut through the Cairn Wraiths here. So yeah, for those of you wondering, fire does not cut through physical resistance. You need magic attacks as well. So just for comparison's sake, after we finish up this one, we will go ahead and take a look at the same test run with Flaming Sword of Ruin instead of the Warrior Priests, which of course gives flaming as well as magic damage. So with the magic damage from Flaming Sword of Ruin, we should be able to see a major difference there. But it's worth noting that the Flaming Banner from the Warrior Priest actually meant the difference between these Flagellants winning or losing. It's an incredibly close fight between Flagellants and Cairn Wraiths, and that tiny 6% weapon damage buff was enough to make these Flagellants actually win out here. So I'm a big fan of the Warrior Priest with the Flaming Banner. You don't see him very much in online play, but I think it's a bit of a niche pick, especially when you're using him alongside Flagellants who already have pretty decent weapon strength and frenzy. I really like that that kind of synergy there, but that's a bit of a side note. You can see the difference was very, very minor here in terms of the HP there remaining on those Flagellants. So let's go ahead and take a look at an additional test here, and we will, kind of compare side by side to magic attacks. So you can see this time we traded out the 2 Warrior Priests for a Bright Wizard. We've got Flaming Sword of Ruin to imbue that magic damage. Of course, it also does imbue much more weapon strength, but magic damage cuts right through physical resistance, so we should be able to see that, very, very easily in this. So we'll go ahead and fast forward through this initial phase here. And as we get closer to the battle, now we'll zoom in a little bit closer to soak in some of these beautiful cinematics. And you can see the Flaming Sword of Ruin being dropped here. And as soon as that goes off, just watch how quickly these Cairn Wraiths are going to go down. Yeah, this is not on fast forward, folks. These guys are getting absolutely shredded because, of course, you can see the Flagellants do have magic attacks with that Flaming Sword of Ruin. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty decisive difference. You guys, hopefully this test kind of illustrates the difference that magic attacks do cut through physical resistance, however, flaming attacks do not. And don't get confused, like Flaming Sword of Ruin, for example, imbues both magic and fire attacks. So keep in mind, there are other effects that imbue just flaming attacks, like the Banner of Eternal Flame, and yeah, you can have both magic and flaming attacks. However, the flaming does not help at all against physical resistance. It only pertains if they have a particular weakness or resistance to fire, such as units with regeneration, you know, treekin units, or, you know, so on. So, just a bit of quick testing for you guys. And as an anecdotal side note, the Empire actually has a lot of really good fire weapon tools. So, let's go ahead and talk about just a few things with the Empire really quick as we kind of close things out here with this discussion. So if we go in here to custom battle and take a look with the Empire, they've got a lot of units with flaming attacks. So of course Volkmar himself does have flaming as well as magic damage, so he's going to be good against any ethereal units or any regenerating units. Of course you can bring along a Bright Wizard, which anytime you cast a spell with him, as long as you bring the Kindle Flame lore attribute, all units map-wide, all opposing units map-wide will gain 22% weakness to fire. So that's a very, very nice buff there. So you combine that with, say, Knights of the Blazing Sun, who do fire damage. You can bring along the Warrior Priest, who's got 50 armor. You can cut down his abilities a little bit just to make him a little cheap. So we'll just bring Shield of Faith as well as Benediction to make him kind of like a Grail Relic. Then we can also toss on that Banner of Eternal Flame as well. If you want to go really cheap, you can actually just cut all the abilities from this guy, and for only 382, you can bring that Banner of Eternal Flame, which then gives your entire front line, you know, potentially flaming damage. Or if you don't want to spend the money on Knights of the Blazing Sun, you can do something like this. You can come down here, put him on a Warhorse, and then have him ride along with the Reiksguard, for example, if you want to get the Zintler's Reiksguard. Or you could even have him ride along with Demigryph Knights if you wanted to. It's going to give anything flaming attacks. And keep in mind that it does also affect missile units as well. So, you know, if you're facing up against the vampires, for example, you can go ahead and do something like this. Maybe bring a Great Cannon, and then if you stand this Warrior Priest next to the Great Cannon, it's going to imbue flaming damage on that Great Cannon. So, you know, the Crusade builds with Volkmar, I definitely recommend bringing the Lore of Fire in the appropriate matchups. Something like this, where we can go in here. We can probably cut Fireball, although it is useful in certain situations. Same thing with Cascading Fire Cloak, Flaming Sword of Ruin, Burning Head. Flamestorm and Piercing Bolts of Burning can be pretty good, but they're a little expensive, because you want to try and get that Kindle Flame proc off as many times as possible in the right situation. So we'll go ahead and cut these two most expensive abilities. If you're fighting the Skaven or the vampires, I do recommend the Burning Head. It's great at clearing out chaff units. Or else Flaming Sword of Ruin, of course, against the Wood Elves. Skaven as well have plenty of physical resistance, so it's good against them. You know, of course, when Norskaz finally gets released later down the line, it'll be very good against them as well. Cascading Fire Cloak's good for a duelist type situation. I don't always bring it, but you can go ahead and cut it. Sometimes I bring Fireball as well, but generally I like to bring just these two spells, and then we can come in here and, you know, maybe get some different cavalry, some different things. It's worth noting as well that the Luminarch actually does flaming missile damage. So if you get a Kindle Flame proc off just before you get some shots with the Luminarch, they'll do, you know, 22% more damage, which is really, really nice. You know, especially with something as high of missile damage as the Templehof Luminarch has, it can definitely do an extreme amount of damage. So just a little bit of theory crafting on fire and magic damage. Just thought I'd, you know, illustrate the difference between the two. They're definitely both useful, and with the Empire Crusade build, you can bring both in spades and, you know, definitely take down factions like, I would say the three factions it's most viable against are the Wood Elves, the Vampires, and the Skaven. When Norska is released, it'll be very good against them as well. But, you know, these types of units, something like this with a front line of Flagellants. You could even go with Swordsmen, too. Maybe something like this with a nice, cheap front line. Then you can bring plenty of cavalry as well, maybe a couple of Reiksguard. And this is even with a very heavy artillery contingent. I don't typically like to bring the Luminarch, although in this case the Templehof Luminarch might be nice because it'll give you a few casts of the nets. You know, so we definitely got to bring Volkmar on his wagon here. We'll go ahead and grab Banishment. Grand Soulfire can be good in certain situations. I'm not a huge fan of Divine Power and Benediction on Volkmar, because he's potentially going to be running around to various sides of the battle. The other two support buffs, you know, are potentially good to keep. Grand Soulfire is a little bit situational, but again, very good against the Skaven and the Vampires. Not so much against the Wood Elves, but definitely want to bring the Jade Griffin as well. So something like this, you know, personally I'd probably cut this guy and just bring more unit density, but there's a lot of different things you can do depending on the matchups. So hope you guys enjoyed watching this kind of testing and discussion video. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'm keeping it coming with more Total War Warhammer 2 content every single day, so stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.